Now the first story of the surah is mentioned, the story of the people of the cave. It is said, or have you thought that the companions of the cave and the inscription were among our signs a wonder? You think this was something amazing? In fact, it was amazing. But remember, Allah can do even more amazing things. Mention when the youths retreated to the cave. Why? To protect their faith. And they said, our Lord, grant us from yourself mercy and prepare for us from our affair right guidance. They went into self-isolation in order to protect their faith. But they called upon Allah. They said, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً. Because it is only with Allah's mercy that a person is safe. Their worldly matters are secure and their religious matters are secure. وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا. They prayed to Allah for guidance. Because it is only Allah who guides His servants. And only the one who is guided by Allah is truly guided. So we see here that these youths, they left their homes in order to protect their deen. This was, in a way, hijrah. And the Prophet ﷺ also had to make hijrah. Remember, the earth is vast. And there's many, many opportunities in the world. So when you are faced with an option which is not permissible for you as a Muslim, then don't think that is the only option for you. This world has many opportunities. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ آذَانِهِمْ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to their dua and saved them. How? We cast a cover of sleep over their ears within the cave for a number of years. Imagine they're in the cave in self-isolation, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them such security that they fell asleep. Then we awakened them, that we might show which of the two factions was most precise in calculating what extent they had remained in time. It is we who relate to you their story in truth. Indeed, they were youths, they were young people who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. And we made firm their hearts when they stood up and said, our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Never will we invoke besides Him any deity. We would have certainly spoken then an excessive transgression. So we see here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthened their hearts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them courage, because of which they were able to declare their faith openly, because of which they were able to stay calm and confident in the face of opposition. These our people have taken besides Him deities. Why do they not bring for worship of them a clear authority? And who is more unjust than one who invents about Allah a lie? They said to one another, and when you have withdrawn from them, and that which they worship other than Allah, retreat to the cave. Look at how they made a plan. They didn't just go about randomly. Your Lord will spread out for you of His mercy and will prepare for you from your affair facility. So they decided where they were going to go. They were going to go hide in the cave, and they expected help from Allah. They expected Allah's mercy. They expected facility and ease from Allah. So we need to check ourselves. What do we expect from Allah? What kind of du'as do we make when we are in hardship? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am as my servant thinks I am. And had you been present, you would have seen the sun when it rose inclining away from their cave on the right. So they would be undisturbed by the light of the sun, which is why they comfortably slept. Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help came. And when it set, passing away from them on the left, while they were laying within an open space thereof. So it was airy, it was roomy. That was from the signs of Allah. He whom Allah guides is the rightly guided, but whom He leaves astray, never will you find for him a protecting guide. So the fact is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to guide His servants, no matter what situation the servants are in. But we have to ask for that guidance. And we have to take that first step, just as these youths took the first step towards Allah. And you would think them awake while they were actually asleep. And we turned them to the right and to the left, while their dog stretched his forelegs at the entrance. If you had looked at them, you would have turned from them in flight and been filled by them with terror. So we see that these people actually slept in the cave for a very, very long time. And how come nobody woke them up? Because if anybody ever came to the mouth of the cave, they would be afraid on seeing these people sleeping in the cave. So whether it was night or day, whether it was cold or hot, these men, these youths were sound asleep, safe from all the dangers that were outside the cave. And this happened for so many years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them security when they were surrounded by hardships. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of doing that. That when you see only hardship and difficulty and frightening things around you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to grant you peace and calmness. But you have to turn towards Him, and you have to take that first step towards Him. And similarly, we awakened them, and this was after 300 years, that they might question one another. And it is said that when they fell asleep, it was the beginning of the day, and the time that they woke up after 300 years was at the end of the day. So they asked each other, said a speaker from among them, how long have you remained here? They said, we have remained a day or part of a day. They said, your Lord is most knowing of how long you remained. Yani this is not a relevant discussion, and there is no benefit in trying to find out how long we remained. Let's focus on what is important. And what is that? So send one of you with the silver coin of yours to the city, and let him look to which is the best of food and bring you provision from it, and let him be cautious and let no one be aware of you. Subhanallah. Everybody didn't go. One person went. And what was he to do? Find the food that was azka, that was purest and cleanest, most halal. And then they said, وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ, he should be careful. He should not draw unnecessary attention. You see, Iman doesn't mean that a person becomes careless. You have to be careful. Their lives were in danger. This is why they had to take extra care when going out in the world. Indeed, if they come to know of you, they will stone you or return you to their religion, and never would you succeed then ever. And similarly, we caused them to be found. Subhanallah, because this was after 300 years. So when he went to buy food, the currency, the money was ancient. And this is how it was known that these people, they were missing for so long, and they had actually been sleeping for so long. So this revealed the truth of the religion that they were upon, of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And similarly, we caused them to be found, that they who found them would know that the promise of Allah is truth, and of the hour there is no doubt. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused them to wake up after 300 years, and He preserved their bodies, subhanallah, Allah is able to do anything. That was when they disputed among themselves about their affair, and then said, construct over them a structure. Because very soon after that, these youths, they actually died. So then the people, they wondered, what should we do? So they said, let's build a structure over their graves. Their Lord is most knowing about them. Said those who prevailed in the matter, we will surely take for ourselves over them a mosque. Meaning we will build a house of worship over their graves. And remember, this is something that's not allowed, because it leads to the worship of other than Allah. They will say there were 3, the 4th of them being their dog. And they will say there were 5, the 6th of them being their dog, guessing at the unseen. And they will say there were 7, and the 8th of them was their dog. Say, my Lord is most knowing of their number. None knows them except a few. So do not argue about them except with an obvious argument, and do not inquire about them among the speculators from anyone. So we see that certain details, they're left out. They're left obscure. Why? So that we don't get stuck in the details. We don't get distracted by them. Rather, we have to focus on the lesson. And then we see here that when people argue about such details, then what is it that one should do? Don't prolong that argument. وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا. And never say of anything that indeed I will do that tomorrow, except when adding, if Allah wills, إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ Allah. The thing is that the people asked the Prophet ﷺ about the youths who had slept, the 7 sleepers. And the Prophet ﷺ did not know about the answer, so he said, I will tell you tomorrow, because he expected that revelation would be sent. However, it did not come for many days. So he was taught here that when you make a promise, then you say, Insha'Allah. You have to condition it with the will of Allah. And remember your Lord when you forget, and say, perhaps my Lord will guide me to what is nearer than this, to right conduct. So when you forget, meaning when you forget something, then remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because dhikr will allow you to remember what you have forgotten. And when you forget and you become angry and shaitan gets the better of you, again, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the effect of shaitan will go away. And when you forget to say inshallah at the time when you make a promise, then when you do remember, then say insha'Allah. And they remained in their cave for 300 years and exceeded by 9. Say, Allah is most knowing of how long they remained. He has knowledge of the unseen aspects of the heavens and the earth. How seeing is He and how hearing. They have not besides Him any protector, and He shares not His legislation with anyone. Such an important story, such beautiful lessons, yet people get stuck in the details. They get distracted by their number, how long they remained, what their names were, etc., etc. Whereas what we need to focus on is the lesson that the story teaches about the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the fact that we are in need of Him and that we must depend on Him and we must seek guidance from Him. And recite what has been revealed to you of the book of your Lord. There is no changer of His words, and never will you find in other than Him a refuge. Recite the Quran, and keep yourself patient by being with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and the evening, seeking His face. Meaning surround yourself with people who remember Allah, and let not your eyes pass beyond them, desiring adornments of worldly life. And do not obey one whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance, and who follows his desire, and whose affair is ever in neglect. Meaning do not desire the company of such worldly people. So choose the right company, because your company has a huge impact on you. And don't judge people by their superficial, how wealthy they are, and how their clothes are, how famous they are. No. Judge people, or rather perceive them based on their actions. So those who remember Allah morning and evening, you should spend time with them. Those who actually remember Allah. And those who have forgotten Allah, those who are distracted from Allah, they're focused on worldly things, then stay away, because then you will develop the same inclinations. Malik ibn Dinar said, لأن تنقل الحجارة مع الأبرار خير لك أن تأكل الحلوة مع الأشرار. That if you carry stones, meaning that's the work that you do, transferring them from one place to the other with righteous people, meaning you're doing hard labor with righteous people, that is better for you than eating sweet things with evil people. So spend time with the right type of people and say, the truth is from your Lord. So whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve. Indeed, we have prepared for the wrongdoers a fire whose walls will surround them. And if they call for relief, they will be relieved with water like murky oil, which will scald their faces. Wretched is the drink, and evil is the resting place. Indeed, those who have believed and done righteous deeds, indeed, we will not allow to be lost the reward of any who did well in deeds. Those will have gardens of perpetual residence. Beneath them rivers will flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold, and will wear green garments of fine silk and brocade, reclining therein on adorned couches. Excellent is the reward, and good is the resting place. Now, another story is mentioned, and present to them an example of 2 men. We granted to one of them 2 gardens of grapevines, and we bordered them with palm trees, and placed between them fields of crop. You see, the first story was about the test of faith. The second story is about the test of wealth. That what happens when people are tested with money. So this man had 2 gardens. How were his gardens? Each of the 2 gardens produced its fruit and did not fall short thereof in anything. And we caused to gush forth within them a river. And he had fruit. So he said to his companion while he was conversing with him, I am greater than you in wealth and mightier in numbers of men. Subhanallah. So arrogant and boastful. And he entered his garden while he was unjust to himself. He said, I do not think that this will perish ever. And I do not think that the hour will occur. And even if I should be brought back to my Lord, I will surely find better than this as a return. So because of his wealth, he went to the extent of denying the hereafter. He became so delusional. And he started to think that he actually deserved good things. So he said, even if there is an afterlife, because I am good here, I will also be good there. His companion said to him, he was not intimidated at all. He said, while he was conversing with him, have you disbelieved in He who created you from dust and then from a sperm drop and then proportioned you as a man? And you're speaking so highly of yourself. Do you realize who you are? Do you realize your reality, your worth? But as for me, even if you deny, I don't care. But for me, He is Allah, my Lord, and I do not associate with my Lord anyone. And then he reprimanded him. He said, and why did you, when you entered your garden, not say, MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah, what Allah willed has occurred. There is no power except in Allah. Although you see me less than you in wealth and children, meaning even if you see that you have more than I do, but still do you not realize that what you have is because of Allah? Because it may be that my Lord will give me something better than your garden. All power is with Allah. If He gave you, He can also give me something better than you have. And will send upon it a calamity from the sky. If Allah gave it to you, He has full power over it and He can destroy your property. And it will become a smooth, dusty ground. Or its water will become sunken into the earth. So you would never be able to seek it. Meaning, things can change very quickly. And so they did. And his fruits were encompassed by ruin. So he began to turn his hands about in dismay over what he had spent on it, while it had collapsed upon its trellises, and said, oh, I wish I had not associated with my Lord anyone. This is the person who was deluded by his money. He relied upon his property. But remember, no matter how much we have, our success is only in relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fearing Him no matter what, just as the youths did, Ashabul Kahf did. And there was for him no company to aid him other than Allah, nor could he defend himself. There the authority is completely for Allah, the truth. He is best in reward and best in outcome. And in such situations, and it is made evident to us that all sovereignty is all for Allah, not for us, not for people, and not for the things of this life. Because what is the reality of this life? And present to them the example of the life of the world. It's being like rain, which we send down from the sky, and the vegetation of the earth mingles with it. And then it becomes dry remnants, scattered by the winds. And Allah is ever, over all things, perfect in ability. You see, the same beautiful plants, they turn dull and dry. They become dead and broken. And the earth, after it has become lush, it becomes barren. What was so beautiful once upon a time, eventually becomes so ugly. What was once so firm, becomes so weak. Such is the nature of life. It changes. There is illness after health. There is pain, there is death, there is separation. Because this life is not meant to last forever. Just as flowers are not meant to live forever. And the fact is that we don't have control. No matter how much we assume we do, we think we do, Allah is the one who is muqtadira over everything, perfect in ability. Wealth and children are but adornment of the worldly life. But the enduring good deeds are better to your Lord for reward and better for one's hope. So al-malu wal-banun, these are for the world. And al-a'malu salihah, righteous deeds, they are for the hereafter. So what is it that we are focused on? What is it that our time is going into? Yes, children, we have to take care of them. And yes, our wealth also, we have to take care of it. But they should not distract us from the dhikr of Allah. Remember, al-baqiyatu salihat, righteous deeds that endure, that remain. How is it that they endure? Because they outlive you. They live beyond you. You die. But the good deeds that you have done, they last forever. And what are these good deeds? All good deeds. But specifically, in a hadith we learn to say, Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. These words are al-baqiyatu salihat. And they are much easier to say than just looking and staring at the things of this world. Subhanallah, we spend hours at times, so long, just looking at the things of this world, shopping around, looking around. And what is it that it's going to bring us? A temporary benefit. So make sure that you also focus on al-baqiyatu salihat and warn of the day when we will remove the mountains and you will see the earth prominent, and we will gather them and not leave behind from them anyone. And they will be presented before your Lord in rows. And He will say, you have certainly come to us as we created you the first time, but you claimed that we would never make for you an appointment. And the record of deeds will be placed open, and you will see the criminals fearful of that within it. And they will say, oh, woe to us! What is this book that leaves nothing small or great except that it has enumerated it? And they will find what they did present before them. And your Lord does injustice to no one. Qatada said, they will get angry with the book. They will complain that it has recorded everything, but they will not complain that it is unfair. Because this book, the record of deeds, it will contain every little and big thing. This is why, yes, we should avoid major sins, but we should also avoid the minor ones. Because little sins are enough to gather upon a person and destroy him. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Every little good deed and bad deed matters. And you see, sometimes we don't pay much attention to certain things because we belittle them. But remember, such little things also, we could be held accountable for them. Because remember, in a hadith we learned that Allah will ask a person, I asked you for water and you didn't give me? And the person will say, Ya Allah, you? How could you need water when you're the Lord of the worlds? And Allah will say, my servant asked you for water. And had you given him water, you would have found closeness to me. So giving water to someone, we don't think it's a big deal. So we refuse sometimes. But we never know what might be there to save us. And what is it that we will be held accountable for. And mentioned, when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and they prostrated except for Iblis. SubhanAllah, so many times this has been mentioned in the Quran. So that we don't forget this message. That shaitan is truly our enemy. He was of the jinn and departed from the command of his Lord. Then will you take him and his descendants as allies other than me, while they're enemies to you? Wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange. I did not make them witness to the creation of the heavens and the earth, or to the creation of themselves, and I would not have taken the misguiders as assistants. And warn of the day when He will say, call my partners whom you claimed, and they will invoke them, but they will not respond to them, and we will put between them a valley of destruction. And the criminals will see the fire, and will be certain that they are to fall therein, and they will not find from it a way elsewhere. And we have certainly diversified in this Quran for the people from every kind of example, but man has ever been most of anything prone to dispute. People argue a lot. And this is something that we need to take care about. That we don't argue for something that is false. Especially, we should not argue against the Quran, against the truth, against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nothing has prevented the people from believing when guidance came to them and from asking forgiveness of their Lord, except that there must befall them the accustomed precedent of the former peoples, or that the punishment should come directly before them. And we send not the messengers except as bringers of good tidings and warners. And those who disbelieve dispute by using falsehood to attempt to invalidate thereby the truth. And have taken my verses and that of which they are warned in ridicule. And who is more unjust than one who is reminded of the verses of his Lord, but turns away from them and forgets what his hands have put forth. SubhanAllah. You see, when you keep listening to the Quran, it reminds you of your mistakes. And when a person turns away from the Quran, then they end up forgetting themselves. Indeed, we have placed over their hearts coverings, lest they understand it, and in their ears is deafness. And if you invite them to guidance, they will never be guided then, ever. And your Lord is a forgiving, full of mercy. If He were to impose blame upon them for what they earned, He would have hastened for them the punishment. Rather, for them is an appointment from which they will never find an escape. And those cities of the past that are well known to you, we destroyed them when they wronged, and we made for their destruction an appointed time. So take warning, your time is also limited. And now the third story of the surah. which tells us about the test of knowledge, and mentioned when Musa said to his servant, I will not cease traveling until I reach the junction of the two seas or continue for a long period. We learned that Musa a.s. was once giving a khutbah, and someone asked him that who is the most knowledgeable person on earth? And Musa a.s. said, I am. Now this was a completely logical conclusion, but it was not humble. So Allah revealed to him that there is a servant of mine who knows more than you. So Musa a.s. asked to go to him and learn from him. So Musa a.s. was told to take a fish in a basket, and the place where he will lose the fish is the place where he would meet Al-Khidr, the person who had more knowledge than Musa a.s. Musa a.s. was an alim, yet he went to seek more ilm. He was a busy man, yet he went to learn some more. He practically demonstrated what Rabbi zidni ilma means, that, oh my Lord, increase me in knowledge. You see, knowledge is something that we need to continue to increase in. Because if you don't keep learning, you're going to forget what you already know. And if you don't keep learning, you're not going to improve. And any effort that a person exerts in order to gain knowledge, whether it is that they're traveling, like Musa a.s. did, or it is that they're spending money, or that they're spending time, whatever effort that they're putting in, it is worth it. We learn that Jabir ibn Abdullah traveled for a month in order to listen to one hadith from Abdullah ibn Unais. And he traveled for 1 month. And remember that the person who travels to seek knowledge, who goes out to seek knowledge, then the path to Jannah is made easy for them. So keep learning and keep growing. And never be too arrogant to learn that, oh, if I start learning this, then people will think I don't even know this. Musa alayhi salam, he was so humble over here. And true knowledge is that a person stays humble. They realize that there is someone who knows more than me, and I still need to learn more. But when they reached the junction between the two seas, meaning the point where they were supposed to meet Khidr, they forgot their fish, and it took its course into the sea, slipping away. So when they had passed beyond it, Musa said to his boy, bring us our morning meal. We have certainly suffered in this, our journey, much fatigue. He said, did you see when we retired to the rock where we stopped to rest? I forgot the fish over there. You see, Musa a.s., he was hungry, he was tired. And now his servant had made a mistake. This was really not a good combination. Hunger, fatigue, and worry. This is not a good combination. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him. And this is what happens. When you start learning something, you are tested. You are faced with difficulties. Because this is a test for you. That are you going to quit? Are you going to give up? Or are you going to keep going? It is said, أَعْطِ الْعِلْمَ كُلَّكَ تَأْخُذْ بَعْضَهُ. Give knowledge all of yourself and you'll manage to take some of it. He said, and none made me forget it except shaitan, that I should mention it. And it took its course into the sea amazingly. So it was a mistake, but he admitted it. Musa a.s. said, that is what we were seeking. So they returned following their footprints. He didn't get angry over here. And they found a servant from among our servants. So as they went back to the place where they had rested, where the fish had escaped, they found Al-Khidr over there. And who was he? عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا, a servant from among our servants, to whom we had given him rahmah from us, mercy from us. And we had taught him from us ilma, a certain knowledge. You see, Al-Khidr was a servant of Allah, meaning he belongs to Allah. So whatever he did in obedience to Allah. And we see that ibadah, the fact that he was a servant, a worshipper, is mentioned first. Then rahmah is mentioned, and then knowledge is mentioned. And this is the process. You begin with ibadah. You show compassion to people, and that is how you increase in your knowledge. And if there is knowledge without compassion, if there is knowledge without worship, then that knowledge is not knowledge. It is an argument against a person. It is a burden. It is a curse. Because it only hardens the heart. Musa a.s. said to him, may I follow you on the condition that you teach me from what you have been taught of sound judgment? He said, indeed with me, you will never be able to have patience. And how can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? And this is true. When people don't understand something, they become impatient. Musa a.s. said, you will find me, if Allah wills, patient. Look at the willingness of Musa a.s. And this is the willingness that we should show also. when it comes to learning. That it's possible that initially we don't understand, but be patient. Just wait, observe, and with time you will know. But we are too hasty and we jump to conclusions too quickly. And he said, I will not disobey you in any order. He said that if you follow me, do not ask me about anything until I make to you about it mention. Meaning you have to learn quietly. So they set out until when they had embarked on the ship, Al-Khidr tore it open. He broke it. Musa a.s. said, have you torn it open to drown its people? You have certainly done a grave thing. Musa a.s. couldn't keep quiet. Al-Khidr said, did I not say that with me you would never be able to have patience? Musa a.s. said, do not blame me for what I forgot. He shows humility. And do not cover me in my matter with difficulty. So they set out. Al-Khidr excused him. Until when they met a boy, Al-Khidr killed him. Musa a.s. said, have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul? Meaning an innocent child? You have certainly done a deplorable thing. So Musa a.s. here, he reprimanded Al-Khidr as if to ask him that why did you do something like this? So why did Khidr do all of this? We will find out in the next juz. And this is our test when it comes to learning. Because sometimes we want to learn things very quickly, immediately. But the process of learning requires time. It requires patience. So we should never think that we know everything, nor should we be too quick to criticize and jump to conclusions. And we should always be patient with knowledge. And the story especially teaches us the importance of learning by observation through real experiences. And for that, silence is needed, exactly as Musa a.s. was told. Inshallah, we'll conclude over here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.